Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Lobo's behind you. This is Libby.
Hey, Libby.
That's Luke.
Hey, Luke.
Yeah, come
You
on.
got all the family here.
He
That's
thinks
why-
he's a dog, so
Yeah.
we kind of let him hang like a dog.
You just are surrounded by nature and animals, aren't you?
Yeah, hear the woodpecker?
Yeah.
The pilot has decided he really likes this feeder
Oh,
right
yeah?
here. Yeah.
This place is so pretty. So
Thank
pretty.
you. Yeah, it's a wonderful place to live
It is.
and work.
And work.
And work. That's
And
what we're
work and
talking
work
about
and
today
work.
is work and work and work.
Well, let's talk about the work.
And it is work.
Yeah.
I think the first thing we need to talk about is the fact that being an artist, a serious artist, is work. I remember my oldest son came and he helped me print my Arkansas Wilderness portfolio all those years ago. And he'd been going to college and he was getting a degree in engineering, and he came back and he said, "Mom, I can help you with this," because we were having serious issues. He said, "I can help you with this," and I said, "Okay." And she's going to insist.
Yeah.
Be easy. And I said, "Okay," and he printed the portfolio for me, and he worked for me for 2 years. Very gifted artist.
Yeah.
Amazingly gifted artist. And he comes to me and he says, "Mom, I think I want to go back to school." I said, "Oh, really?" And he goes, No, not in a way that's going to make you happy." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I'm going to go get my degree in banking and finance. I don't want to work this hard.
Wow.
I don't want to work this hard."
Yeah.
Because he was working in the midst of a working artist. If you're going to be serious about it, and if you're going to do this, it's hard work. And I think the artists that are set apart from the others that you see, that you go, "Oh my gosh," those are the ones that if you say, "Well, you know, what's your work ethic?" they'll go, "I work all the time. I work all the time." And because that's what you have to do in order to be able to produce the work and
Yeah.
succeed and be who you need to be.
Right.
And I wrote a poem about it. When I did the Master's Legacy Patronage, God bless the Levels, they had a big event. And I decided to, and they wanted me to speak, and I decided to write a poem about being an artist at the level that I'm an artist. And we are all, all artists are artists at different levels. And whatever that level is, that's fine for you. This is just about me.
Right.
And artists who work at my level.
Right.
That's what I'm
Okay.
talking about. Okay?
Well, lovely. Let's hear it.
All right. We paint, we draw, we sculpt, we pray, only to watch our children go away. Pieces of our soul leaving one piece at a time, until we fear there will be no soul left at all. The work I do is all about fear. It is always there. Fear that the feeling will go away, leaving me bereft of the creative spirit I must have to complete. The fear that I will work and work and work and fail to see the very heart of what I am doing, until finally whatever it was is no more. Fear that I will become arrogant, careless with my gift, using it for things that are not meant to be, things that feed my wants and not my heart or anyone else's, until it's all gone, spent like easy money. Fear that I will be unseen, like a fog to be walked through, a wall to be walked around, a building to be climbed, but never entered into. And for what? For accolades? For sweet applause? To be remembered? No. I do it because I must, because there's no choice for me. I am bound by a reality I cannot escape, a costly, hurtful, fearful reality. For God has given me a window into eternity, and with this tiny pen He has placed in my hand, allowing me to understand the terrible difficulty of creativity, a reality that holds all the glory spoken of by those who see glory. And when that moment comes, that perfect, precious moment ascends upon me, blessing me with awakening so close to my heart, I can feel the relentless beating of the wind against our world. The most important thing that can happen happens. I'm given the strength to begin again.
Wow.
That's what we do.
That's what you do.
That's what I do.
That's what you do.
And
Which
I
is
think a lot of other people like me do it.
It is when you're sitting there, you really are pouring out part of who you are.
Absolutely.
I could see where it could be very draining at times, just to wake up and have the paint, have the pen in your hand.
Yeah, and well, what happens is that I go in and I work, and at the end of the day, I'm spent. I go lay down and sleep for 2 hours, dead sleep, just like you do in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then I wake up, and I start my evening.
Yeah.
But I'm still tired.
Yeah.
Just not spent.
It's really just a really intimate relationship with the pen and the paper.
It really is. It's
like a third relationship.
It's a third relationship, and I'm what I do is very symbiotic. I'm not. It's very intuitive. I don't work by rote. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't have, here's my method, here's what I do, I make it work every time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of artists have that, especially photorealists, and it's wonderful for them. Mm-hmm. Every artist works differently. Mm-hmm. For me, every time I approach that paper, it's like I was never there before. Mm. It's hard to explain. Mm. So each time that I do that drawing, it's that whole new beginning. Mm. And each one is a different experience for a different reason.
Are you able to look back on you've got quite a collection over the years of what the things that you've been able to share with everyone. Are you able to look at a certain period of time when your energy that you can remember, a place you were in your life, an emotional space where you were, and be able to say that work looks different?
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Every one of them's like that.
Yeah.
I can look at bodies of work. I can look at, because of the expeditions, I can look at each expedition's body of work. Mm-hmm. And with that, I can see that time. Mm-hmm. When I look at the body of work. Mm-hmm. But as individual pieces, each one was its own experience. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily tell me of a particular time.
Interesting.
Only one or two do.
Okay.
And those are very specific pieces. Right. They tell me of a very specific time.
Have you ever drawn and finished with it, taking a look back from step back and look at it and say, this one's just mine?
No, I don't get to. No, I don't get to do that.
You don't get to do that?
And I don't know that I've ever wanted to. When I was a young artist, women were not mentors. They just weren't. They weren't considered, of any value. Women's work. So you went to men. Michelangelo was who was my mentor. I don't think he ever did anything to keep. I think when you're doing masterwork, it's not about yourself. Mm-hmm. The process is very personal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the work, even I write about that. When we have children, mm-hmm. and I have 3 and a bunch of grandkids, they're not yours. As women, you bore them, you raise them. They're not yours.
Yeah.
Art, for me, my art is the same way, and I think for people who do work at the level that I do it, they feel very much that way. There are artists who never sell anything, mm-hmm. And when they pass, there's a house full of this art.
Right.
And usually those artists end up in oblivion.
Mm. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The house full of art's put in a garage sale and it's all gone.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the methodology of how you how you do your printing and how you do all that.
How I do what I do?
Yeah, let's talk a little
Well,
about that.
my work starts with it's animal portraiture and landscape portraiture, and so it starts with going out into the wild and experiencing the animal and the landscapes. When I'm there, I'm experiencing the environment. That's the landscape. I'm looking for the animals. I often find them and I experience them in the wild. Seldom able to get anything I could certainly draw from. The animals that I draw are from captivity, but I hold on to the energy, the feeling that I got from that animal that I observed in the wild. Each one has its own personality. And it took me years to come to truly understand that. We talked about Gary
Right.
Priest and how I learned that. Years to understand that, because they do. Each one is individual. No two rabbits are alike. Think of how many bunnies there are. But no two are really alike.
Right.
Each one, they're as different as we are different. And so when you start observing them that way, understanding them that way, and then creating a drawing of that animal, it's going to be different. It's going to hold a different kind of power. It's going to hold a different kind of feeling. It's going to be a different experience for the observer.
So as you're going out and capturing, are you capturing these animals by photography, video?
Absolutely, I use photography.
And do
Yeah.
you typically hire a guide to take you to certain areas where you know that there's a heavy population? What does that look like?
I usually work with biologists.
Okay.
Guides are guides usually for hunters. And they can tell you how to tree just about anything or shoot just about anything. That's not what I'm after.
Okay.
Because I really want to know the animal. And so I work with the biologists, and I work in the refuges, the national parks, and state parks, places like that. Those are the people who are working to keep that species alive, or those species, depending on what kind of a refuge it is. They know the animal.
Okay.
They know it.
Right.
They have to, because if they didn't, they couldn't help it. So listening to them and their observance is very important to me.
Okay.
And they will have, and when you're out with them, it's so much fun, because there's old hook something, or there's old, they know these animals and they name them. And they're familiar with them. And when you start listening to them talk about the behavior of that particular animal, or here's that rogue bear, that rogue bear, well, we know what that rogue bear is going to do. It has a personality, a specific kind of personality. It refuses to comply with what we as humans want it to do, so it's a rogue.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
We're in its habitat. Its habitat.
Its habitat. Right.
Yeah, so it's fascinating. But when all of those observances that I hear, all of those things that I learn, and then I go myself and I sit and I listen and I watch with the knowledge that I've gained. So I learned better how to observe those animals and how to understand what I'm seeing better.
Okay.
And that translates into the work.
Is there, I know every animal is different, I'm sure all mating seasons, but is there a particular season of the year that you prefer to make this trek to observe animals?
No.
No?
It's always fun to be out in the spring because the babies are out. And they are out. You just have to know how to look for them. And babies are fun. They're just silly. They're dumb. I don't know what's going on. And they trip all over themselves, and they do all this funny stuff, and they're usually very fearless. So they're a lot of fun. Animals in the winter, this is when you see the grit, the strength, the tenacity that they have to survive. In the fall, the bears. I mean, being in Yellowstone in the fall is amazing because the bears are just gorging themselves on the huckleberries. And it's so much fun to watch them because they're
It's just going at it.
how many carbs can I get in me? And I'm like, boy, too bad we can't eat like that, you know.
real.
But we're not going to hibernate all winter and lose all that weight. It's just going to stay on us. you know?
Right.
And moms with their cubs at that time, mama bears with their cubs during the fall are hilarious because these kids are getting big enough. Mm-hmm. They don't idea what mom wants them to do anymore. And she's like, oh, the kid gets any dumber. I don't know what I'm going to do, you know. And it's so much fun to watch them. And we were observing a sow with her cubs up on a hillside up in Glacier National Park.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to watch the babies. The little girl, you could tell the boy from the girl. The little girl was just being a good girl. She was feeding. That's what I'm supposed to do. The boy, are you kidding? He'd go hide from mama.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was a game. He'd hide from her, and she'd be eating, and she'd look at me. He's gone. Where's that kid now? And she'd start, you could hear her, and he no sound.
Yeah.
And she'd go around, and then you could hear her getting mad.
Uh-huh.
Then and so he'd pop up, and he'd go, here I am. And she'd be like, oh. So it's fun to watch those kinds of things occur in the wild. It
Right.
tells us a whole lot about these animals and who they really, really, really are.
Right.
Yeah. Not just, and they kill fiercely. So do we. We just don't observe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, unless you're a vegetarian and if you're attached to trees and plants and you become a vegetarian, you have to understand that they have feelings too.
Right.
Everything on this earth has feelings. We all feed off of each other. We're all part of a food chain. What I taught my children when we lived on our farm was to thank God and to thank the animal for the sacrifice that you might eat. To thank God and to thank the plant for the sacrifice that you might eat.
Yeah.
It's all you can do because you're part of the food chain. If you try to pretend you're not, there's nothing left for you to eat.
Yeah. That's sort of the Native American the blessing of the animal when they killed it for food and thanking the animal. Isn't that from the Native American spirit?
In our modern society, it is indeed the Native American who has taught us that. Older societies, blessings at table, were a whole lot about that because they hand on raised that animal and then killed it to eat it. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation in the midst of, you talked about being in their territory. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt that your life was at great risk?
Only when the alligator went after me. We talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We talked about the alligator. There was a time when I thought some other people were at great risk, and I intervened. Let me see. Alaska, Chilkoot River. It's where you fish with the grizzlies. And there's a place, and the salmon were running, and the biologist had it's this long. I wish I could tell you the name of it. I'm really bad about that. It's this long unit that the salmon come up through, and they can count them as they go on through it. And so and along the Chilkoot is a bank, and it's been built up and flattened, especially right there. For the bears to come up, but then you go back, so then it flattens back down. And bears come up that embankment and go along and then go back down and go along the edge of the river. And it was evening, and the biologist was still out there, and there were a group of people with cameras. And this bear was coming toward them, and they got up on top of that rise to photograph that bear coming at them. They didn't have because they'd seen bears all around them, but seen people, not really interacting, but close to them. They didn't have enough sense to know that using a flash camera in the face of a bear that's headed your way is not very smart.
Oh my.
And I had on my jacket. It was cool. I had on my jacket, all of my patrons. It had all those patches and stuff on it.
Right.
And so I guess they thought I was some kind of an official, but I just couldn't help myself. I walked over and I said, get out of there now, go to the other side of this road immediately.
Wow.
And they looked at me and they thought I was somebody official, so they did. The biologist was coming with his rifle. And they went to the other side of the road, and I backed way away, and he did this, and he said, "Thanks. I didn't want to have to kill the bear."
Wow.
Yeah, because had they continued what they were doing, he would have had to shoot the bear. And they haven't had to shoot a bear on that river in 50 years.
Right.
So that's how quickly a situation can get just unbelievable. You just have to understand that they're bears.
Yeah. Is
Now-
Alaska your favorite? Or do you have another area of the country that's your favorite?
Okay. Glacier was beautiful. All of our country is beautiful, but when you go to Alaska, you're in the wild.
Right.
Oh my God. You are actually truly in the wild.
Yeah.
Everything in the lower 48 is remnant. It must be managed because it is. And if you don't understand that, you're being naive. You just are. I don't care how vast it looks to you. You're just a human and you're tiny. It's remnant. Animals leave. They're on ranches in no time. In Alaska, it's miles of total wild. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And when you're there, the people are totally different because they got 4 months. They got 4 months to raise everything, kill everything they got to kill so that they can survive a long, hard, isolated winter. Okay? And it's amazing how they function. I saw kids in their teens tied with ropes to pickup trucks on the Copper River with big long nets with this big long pole and a net at the end. It's like 8 foot long and this big heavy net. Standing, they got on waders because the water is almost freezing. Standing, waist deep, dipping out and throwing up onto the bank salmon that are this big.
Wow.
And these boys are beautiful. Believe me, they're gorgeous because they're so incredibly
Be
healthy,
really tough and
so
withstand it all.
strong.
Right.
And it never enters their mind that they don't want to do that.
That they don't do it.
Never enters their mind.
Wow.
They want to do it because they want to eat next winter. They know, there's something very powerful about knowing about the consequences of your actions right then. And those kids that live in Alaska, unless they're city kids, and even the city kids do to a degree, they understand the consequences of their actions. You live in Alaska, you go out in that stuff in the dead of winter, you're done. Now, this happens up in the north, too. You go way up north, and those kids learn. They learn pretty fast that winters are deadly.
Yeah.
Very deadly. In Alaska, summer, fall, winter, spring is deadly. When you're in the Rockies, summer, fall, winter, spring can be deadly. Why? Because of the animals that
Right.
you're
That you
interacting
encounter.
with. Yeah. And, and sometimes they're going to kill somebody
Yeah.
because they're the master predator in the habitat you're in.
And here we are in Arkansas.
This is actually one of the safest habitats you can live in. And isn't that wonderful?
It is. It is.
We have a few black bear, we have mountain lion, we have an abundance of deer, everything's well fed. We just don't live in an area where if you get lost, you're not going to come out alive.
No,
Black bear don't attack people. They're not aggressive like grizzly bears. Now you do something stupid with a sow and her cubs, and she's going to knock the out of you.
Yeah.
She's going to throw you down the mountain
Right.
because all she's trying to do is get you away
Get
from
you
her
away.
babies. She's not there to kill you and eat you. She's there to get you away from her kids. So she's just going to throw you. And she can really hurt you.
I'll bet.
She really can.
I saw someone the other day, they had a film on Facebook of a black bear swimming across the lake. to the other side. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Even that's something I'm not used to seeing around here. I've never seen a black bear personally here, but I've heard many people that have here lately. So I don't know if there's a growth spurt going on here, or a new population, or
black bear were extinct.
Yeah.
In Arkansas for a number of years. They were just hunted to oblivion.
Yeah.
So were the white-tailed deer. And then in the 70s and 80s, they restored them. In the 80s, they did a program to restore them. In fact, Helen Walden and I went out to see, she and I went out to on this excursion with the biologists to, it was winter, and they were pulling out the black bear and tagging them. So we got to go see that happen, and we did some pretty neat things. She was an amazing gal.
Yeah.
But that was when there were so few black bear, and they were down at White Rock, that was the only place you could see them, and you could only see the ones that they just brought them there, just like when they took the wolf, when they reinstated the wolf in Colorado. You had to go to Yellowstone to see them.
Right.
We had to go to White Rock to see the black bear here.
Okay.
And with good animal husbandry, which our Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is one of the best, by the way. Excellent animal husbandry here. They restored the black bear, and they got them up to what we call huntable numbers. Now, that's what so much of this becomes about. Oh, huntable numbers. Oh, isn't that awful? No, it isn't. And here's why it isn't. Remember what we said early on? Remnant? Habitat is remnant. You get bears up to huntable numbers. If you don't control the number of bears that you've got, and the hunters with their licenses and carefully controlled by our Arkansas Game and Fish Commission are the ones who do that. And those guys who go bear hunting aren't amateurs. They know what they're doing. They are why we're not just, oh my God, with black bears. Overrun with them, yeah. Right. Because if you don't do anything to control their numbers.
Right.
But they also, black bear help control the numbers of deer.
Yeah. Just
like the mountain lion does. And we don't have mountain lion enough for the Game and Fish Commission in any of these states to even recognize them as anything but extinct, because there's so few.
Yeah.
But when we see one, it's just count your blessings, because that's what's going to control your deer population.
Yeah. So you mentioned Helen, 1970s. So
80s.
1980s. 1980s. So when did you grow up here in Arkansas? Were you born and raised in Arkansas?
My parents were.
Your parents were?
Mom and Dad were.
Okay.
I was born and raised in California because Dad went out there to build airplanes during World War II.
Oh, okay. And so you came here
every summer to see my grandma.
Okay. All right.
And fell in love with Arkansas as a girl.
Yeah.
And we used to go to War Eagle cabins to fish.
Really?
And spend, at least a week with all my cousins and my aunts and uncles and grandma and grandpa, and oh my gosh.
Wow.
And Blanche would come down, and Blanche Elliott would come down and say hello to all of us, make sure we're all okay. And when I went to apply to do War Eagle all those many years ago, and I did it for 18 years, I went to apply, she looked at me and she said, "Aren't you Georgie's girl?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." And she said, "I thought I recognized you."
And that's something.
Yeah.
That's something.
No,
so you were here, when did you move here full time?
I moved here full time in 1972.
Okay.
Both of my babies were born here.
Okay.
Yeah, my children were born here.
And you have?
I have 3 sons.
3 sons?
And Jim, Charlie, and Jay.
Okay. Yeah. And how many
Jim
grandchildren now?
5 or
Don't
7.
miss anybody.
5 or 7. I don't know. A bunch.
A bunch.
There's only one girl.
Okay.
I tell you, she's awesome. She is now the manager for the men's track team for U of A.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
and she's a freshman in college. Yeah. Well, now she's going to be a sophomore.
Yeah.
And
so you've populated the area then. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to, when I came out here today, I wanted to just have a lovely conversation. And thank you. This has been so lovely to sit here and chat. Would you mind if we went inside and maybe you could take a few minutes just to show me a little bit of you drawing? Would that be something?
Yeah, I
you
do
would...
have a piece in process,
Okay.
so we can have a look and I can talk about what I'm doing
Okay.
and where I am with the drawing at this time and how I build it. And the good news is that it's a squirrel, so it's a simple one.
Okay.
If it was one of the more complex ones, it would be crazy.
Okay.
But this is more simplistic, so
Okay.
yeah, we can easily talk
You don't
about
mind?
it. No, not at all.
All right, let's go watch her draw, guys. Come along with us.
Let's talk about my process. This is a fox squirrel, life size. Yeah, they're really big. Fox squirrels are big squirrels. They're not little squirrels, they're big squirrels. When you see them way off down in your field, or you see them come up to your feeder, you don't realize their size. And this one's all puffed out because it's cold day. It's early spring, it's cold day. It's really good to see this at this stage because you really get to see how I do this. I take a photograph, I grid it. I take the page, I grid it this is old master technique. They used to take people and set them behind a grid made with string and then do that on their page so that they could it's just to get the proportion correct. That's all it's about. Okay, just to get the proportion correct. Once I've got that going and that correct, then I start working in the animal itself. And as you can see, my process is I draw it in pencil. And I get it to what I call full pencil. And his tail, as you can see right in here, I'm still working on his tail because this is really the hardest part of this animal to draw is this tail. It's very flamboyant, it's very crazy. And it all has to come together and work right. So this is a real challenge. This part of the squirrel, not so much. This is something that I'm accustomed to doing because animals like this have a specific kind of fur and it has a specific kind of texture. And so drawing that becomes something that after you've done it for 40 years, it's not so hard. But as you can see here, if you look at this part, it's just, I'm just giving the direction of the line. The direction of the line. Here's where I start to take the line in detail with the pencil. Right in here, you can see it, okay? Because now I'm working the pen in. See how I'm working the pen in, and you can see here where I'm starting to do more detail with the pencil in this part of the tail because I'm working the pen into that. Once I get all of this to ink precisely as I want it, then I will begin the color. And when I get ready to do that, maybe we can come back and I can show you how I pull the color in, because what happens is this goes to full pen. I start the color. I lift the pencil out. It really changes it. It's like, holy cow, now what has she done? Okay, well, that pencil's got to come out because that softer shading, all of that is now going to be done in color. Okay, so that's what's going to change this. And so right now what I'm doing is I'm just getting this, let's get this to, hello, Miss Libby. Lucy, you're Lucy. Hello, Lucy. Just getting this to better detail so that I can bring this ink into it. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So as you can see, I'm pulling in, I want this to come out, so I'm going to put some back. See how that brings that out when I put something behind it? That's what we do. That's how I get that depth. So in here, because we're along an edge, see that? It's going to deepen that shadow and make that work a little bit better. And then I'm going to soften that because it's fur. And so as I do this, you'll begin to see me pull this in and make this all start to come in together, because this is heavier shadow in here. Just as heavier shadow in there.
Cool.
Yeah. Shadow behind something.
Mm-hmm.
as I go. See, just accentuate some shadow in there.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, this is all going to happen with color.
Okay.
A pen line won't be involved. And these little guys are a lavender color, you know, and I don't know their name, but they're that wonderful wildflower that grows early in the spring and are in the lawns that comes up that's so pretty, that purpley kind of color. So I went down and took a lot of pictures of it. And I was so glad it was early enough that there weren't any bugs in the grass yet, because I was on my tummy getting this shot, because he's sitting on the ground. I couldn't stand up and shoot it. He's on the ground, so I had to get that. And there's going to be a little violets in here too, because it was also the time of year that the violets were out. What's he munching on? He's munching on last year's pine cone. It's a hungry time for fox squirrels. They've just come out. They're just looking for stuff to eat. And the thing about squirrels is, remember when they buried all those nuts last year? I don't know where they buried them. They can't remember. So they've lived on their store. The store that they have is the store that's in their tree where they were wintering, and that's really all they got. Everything else they have to go look for.